Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are about to start. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes for this session. So maybe you are able to get a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of water. So we're going to start in a couple of minutes. Thank you. So welcome, everybody. For you who just joined, we are about to start. I think we're just going to be waiting 2 or 3 minutes more just to get people to log in. So there's still some time to get a cup of coffee or a glass of water or whatever you need. Maybe some pad of paper to scribble some notes. And we're just about to start. And just maybe some information. We are going to record a session. We're gonna share that with you after the webinar in a couple of days. And we'll love to hear from you. So please put your questions in the Q&A session and we can handle them after David has gone through the presentation. So happy to answer your questions. And of course, your microphones are not active due to the size of this meeting, but please put your questions in the Q&A. Again, welcome, a very warm welcome to all of you who has taken the time to listen to us and to talk about NIS 2. We are just 1 minute away of starting. I hope this is the last thing you do during your day, so you don't need to go back to work. I'm hoping that will happen to me as well. All right, I think we could start. My name is Miguel Vergara. Thank you all for taking your time to be here with us today. With me today, I have David Jankowski, who is Cybersecurity Competence Center Director. I'm happy to be here with you, David, today and discuss this NIS 2 webinar.
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm happy to be here. So yes, I'm David and I'm from the SIA Poland. I'm leading the Cybersecurity Competency Center. Basically have almost 20 years experience in the IT environment, mostly in software development and also the cybersecurity.
Thank you, David. So maybe present our agenda of today.
Yes, so today we will talk about the NIS directive, especially how to implement effectively and efficiently the NIS 2 requirements. So after going briefly what is the NIS directive, I will present some information about the general topics to remember during the implementation, and also I will show the sample improvements done in special areas of the NIS requirement on the basis of the sample company that we are working with.
Super, thank you. So to start off with, I just wanted to present a little bit about our company. My name is Miguel Vergara and I'm the regional manager for SIA Sweden. It's a Swedish company. We have been here since 2018. We have a local presence, so we can have consultants for you here in Sweden. But our strength is actually our mother company, which is SIA Poland. We have a big nearshore team. And SIA Poland, I'm not sure if you have heard of SIA before, but it's a company founded 2006 in Poland, and it has grown from 1 person to almost 8,000 people we are today. And we do around €500 million in €500 million. Here you go back, just David, just what €500 million in revenue each year, and we have no debt. And we deliver. We have capacity in 16 different cities in Poland, so it's all depending on where our customers are. And we have a big portfolio of offering. We just do not just talk about cybersecurity. We have a lot of our people are working with software developers, or working within testing or enterprise softwares like SAP, Salesforce, and Microsoft, of course. But today we're going to focus on cybersecurity and NIS 2. And one brief show you something about cybersecurity team is that we are 180 people run by David. He's running this whole team, and we are able to provide you end-to-end solutions, not just on the governance part, but also on the technical part. We have several technologies that we can support. So with that, David, I will leave it to you to discuss more on NIS 2, where you are an expert.
Okay, thank you. So let's start it. What is the NIS 2 directive? Basically, due to increased number of the cybersecurity attack and the situation in the world, the European Union has enacted many initiatives and many directives to make the Europe safer in the regards of the cybersecurity, and the NIS 2 directive is one of it. Basically, it is a directive that every EU company will need to implement. So it's like it has some bases, and every country will need to add something on top of that. In fact, in Sweden, basically the requirements that are planned to be in the legislative are almost all the same as the native NIS 2 requirement. So even if it's not yet passed as a law in Sweden, we can use the NIS 2 requirement as a base for the implementation. In fact, originally, the NIS 2 says that 17th of October is the deadline for every EU member to implement the requirements and for the companies to be compliant. But basically, almost all EU countries didn't manage this on time. Sweden probably will have this in the law around January 2025. In Poland, probably we will have very similar date. So basically, NIS 2 directive is something like as an addition to the previous NIS, which is already in place for the few years, and it was covering the critical companies, and now it's enhanced for other types of companies. And also basically there are four main requirements for the companies. So they need to have proper risk management in place to be able to measure and to work with like incident response, supply chain security, etc. Also, there's a corporate responsibility. So higher management have to oversee the implementation of the NIS and oversee the cybersecurity of the company, as breach can result in fines for the company, but also fines for concrete higher management. Also, there is a additional need for the reporting. Companies have to report incidents. And last, the business continuity. Organizations have to have their business continuity plans working. So there are a few things that is worth to remember when we think about the implementing the regulatory requirements, and especially NIS 2. First of all, remember to involve the board or the higher management. It is first of all, if it is required by the directive, the board needs to be trained. They need to have security training related to risk management, incident response. Of course, it doesn't need to be super technical, but it needs to be something that you can prove you can prove that it took place. So as we are doing the basically the security essentials training for the board, and then we are using periodical status meeting with the board to also have some short 5-minute trainings for things to refresh their knowledge. Also, please use the opportunity for implementing the requirements for other security enhancement. You will need to spend time and money to be compliant, so it's worth to have also additional activities related to security, which will be something that you will have good effects. The other thing what is very important, and this is something that I see many times in the companies that we start cooperation with, that it's not the proper order of the activities for the implementation. So first, you should start from process and documentation, not from the tools. If you start from the tools, because, for example, there was some company that sold you great tool and said that, okay, with this tool you will be compliant. No, probably you will be compliant for the parts of the requirements, but if you start with the tool, you will have the tool-driven processes in your organization. So you won't have the processes tied to you and fit for your organization, but fit for the tool that you already bought. And also, in future, during the implementation, it may happen that you will discover that, oh, I did have pretty good tool. It could be used for this purpose. I spent money. It was not necessary. Also, this is something that like technical people from the security don't like, is the paperwork. But regarding the regulatory requirements, something that you will be audited for is the case that the more thorough documentation, the less problem you will have during the audit. And the case is that if you have an auditor that will check your company and you have the procedure written into the document, the auditor will check the reality against your procedure and check your procedure if it's compliant. Of course, in theory, you don't need to have it written, but if you don't have it written, then the auditor will check the reality and compare it to something known. So maybe the person will compare it to the standard like ISO 2701, which can be, which can be more and more restrictive for you. Also, in the case where you have a breach and you will have the auditor from the supervisor company, if you have the document, it's high probability that the auditor will check the document, check some evidence for the activities, and that's all. The person won't go deep. And the reality is that if someone tries to go deep enough, they always will find something. The next thing, please remember that there is a need to have evidence of some activities. So it's not enough that you have some processes, you have documentation, and you have great tools, but please remember and think about it during the implementation that when someone will audit you, the person can say, okay, so you have this process and you say that it works like this. Please show me the evidence that it works like this. So please remember to prepare the evidence. Also, it's really important to leverage the current as its state. The companies that we have like two types of companies. The companies that already are under the NIS regulation. So what they need is to add some additional requirements, but generally they are all almost, let's say, almost compliant with the NIS2 directive. But the other companies are the one that, you know, they were not under the NIS and they are currently under the NIS2. Still, those companies in most cases have some processes, have some security on board, and it's always, please remember to focus on as is state and use something that you already have, especially that the processes that you already have are usually the one that are very good and fit for you. Also, the next thing before starting is to remember that, you know, you start with the gap analysis to know what exactly I need to do. And you have two options. Start with like quick review, ask some, you know, even ask some external company, please review and write me information what I will need to do. So this is also the good way to start. But please remember that if you spend time for this gap analysis, please spend some more time and go deeper into what you have. It will be very useful further in the implementation. Also, the last thing from the general thing is that basically the requirements you could move them to like two main ISO standards: 2701, so information security, 22301. If your company implemented one of it, half of the work is done. If you have implemented both of them, probably all of needed work is already done. But if your company doesn't have them, then think about, will I want in future have those standards? If yes, it's a good idea to use the controls and, you know, use those standards to implementing the NIS2 requirement, and then in future you will have the easy way to be certified. Okay, so how does the process of implementing NIS2 requirements and basically all government requirement looks like? So you start with the gap analysis, then you go with the process definition. You define the process, policies, and procedure for your organization. Then you document it. So this is the place where after you document how the security looks in your organization, you go to the implementation phase. So you implement the processes, and also more often you implement the tools that are needed to support your requirements. And at the end, it's a good idea to have even internal assessment of something that you implemented, so you can say, okay, I'm compliant with the directive, and I can say to the respective authority, okay, I'm ready and I'm compliant. There's one thing that you should also remember, and it's really important. NIS2 directive implementation is a project for a company, so it should be treated as a project. So you need to plan this project and be sure that you have enough resources. I mean, from my experience, for like the regulatory requirement projects, the internal resources are very often the bottleneck in the implementation process. I mean, you know, you have people on board, but they have their own business as usual tasks, and you are not able to implement the project without them. You can use the external company, third party, like for example us, and we can support you with creating the processes definition, also providing some templates for documentation. Even if needed, we can provide it, some additional people that will write the documentation, but still the knowledge is inside the minds of your people. In most cases, it's probably not documented super hard. So you need to remember that they need to be engaged. Okay, so in further part of the presentation, I will describe the measures that are required, so the requirements of the NIS2 directive from the for the companies, and I will use the sample company that we are cooperating. This is a Polish company, but basically requirements are the same. And this is the company that we have worked previously with, and they asked if we can support them to be compliant. This is a food producer and manufacturer, basically responsible for like producing and foods, and also they have like a logistic department to send the food to stores all around the country. They do have the IT department, but I wrote this half FTE for the security because they do not have like a dedicated person as a security. It's just, you know, additional work for the IT guy to have some security knowledge. So the NIS2 provides the, you know, additional sectors that need to be compliant. You have the high critical sectors, we have the critical sectors, and based on the sector and based on the revenue and size of the company, it can be important company and important entity and essential entity. And our sample company is the important entity. It's not an essential entity. Basically, the requirements for both type of entities are the same. So they need to implement the same thing. The difference is that how do they prove that they are compliant? The essential ones, they most probably, when the law will be enforced, most probably will need to go through the assessments. Every 2 years, they will need to be audited to say that they are compliant. The important entities, most probably, they won't be assessed by external companies. They will just need to say, okay, we did a self-assessment, we are the important entity, and we are compliant. And basically, the real assessment can happen after there will be some doubt from the respective authority. So maybe there will be some information that they will get some information that, okay, this company is really not compliant, or maybe there will be a breach, and you will have some cyber attack. It will hit you, and then after that, the authority will perform the audit, and such audit can be really, really difficult. I mean, it's really similar to the GDPR case. I'm not sure how it's in Sweden, but in Poland, in GDPR, you don't have like periodical audits. But basically, when you have the data privacy breach, then you will have the audit. And you, as a company, need to know which part of you is, but you need to be prepared for such audit, because the result of the audit will impact the fines, or maybe lack of fine after the breach. Okay, so let's start with this. We started with the gap assessment. Basically, it was gap analysis. We didn't do assessment. We analyzed what it's there in the company. So we started with 1 week, like initial interviews with the company. We got the documents, and basically it was like we have the questionnaires, big Excel questionnaires where we go and go through the questions and have the quick, brief information about where we are in this company. And this is, as I mentioned, this initial part of the analysis. Then we went through the deeper investigation. So we had like deeper assessment of the environment itself. We also went through the detailed documentation and processes, also the one that are not documented but they are in the heads of the team. We also went through the important business processes, also the we went through the assets, etc., etc., to have the detailed information about the what is in the company. Based on that, we could create reports of findings, of gaps. So we knew how what is as its state. We presented where we want to be, and also the activities, what need to be done to be compliant. So then we prepared a roadmap, let's say simplified project plan for the organization, and based on that, organization was able to actually estimate how much it will cost for them to implement needed changes. So I mentioned before that this gap analysis is really important to have it really deep enough to have this information that will be used later in the risk management process. I mean, the risk management process is let's say, is the foundation of all requirements of the NIS directive. All the implemented things that you will have in your security should start with risk assessment. Also, there is one thing worth to remember that, I mean, basically, we are doing this every time. We are not only checking the environment for direct NIS requirement, but also general security requirement, because NIS doesn't cover everything. But we are there, we check things, so it's worth to know what else can be done to be more secured. Okay, so based on the analysis, we have our matrix. We assess the key measures, so the 10 key measures that needs to requires from the company to be implemented, and assess them in the standard manner, red, amber, green. It appeared that the company actually had pretty good security posture. We expected it to be worse, but it was pretty good. There were also, especially the technical part was really good. So we could already tell that, I mean, we had the security driven by the IT people, not by the process, not by the business, but from the IT people, and the technical part they implemented really well. So now I would like to go through some of these measures. What was the state of the company, and what actually we needed to do, and what we did during this implementation. So basically, we have this. The company didn't have any risk management strategy. The company didn't have clear defined roles or any documented risk analysis. They were some procedures. They were some policies. They even had some basic security strategy document, but all of this was fragmented and it was not as a one system. So what we did first, we established a risk management strategy. We used for that NIST risk management framework. Please remember, NIST is not the same as NIS2. NIST is a US-based organization. They have really good security frameworks. So you can use, but also you can use the ISO 3100 for your base, like as a cheat sheet for you to what to do and how to establish this risk management strategy. We then created the roles and the responsibilities. We created a RACI matrix, and then we established a structured process of how to perform the risk assessment and then manage the risk. As I mentioned, the way is that you assess the process. You must know what is your critical process. You then assess you propose the risk, cybersecurity risk for the process. You then assess the risk, and then you have the risk mitigation, or maybe you can accept, but you then decide what to do with the risk. It can be new tool, it can be new process, and it can be decision that, okay, we accept this risk. And we also supported the customers to perform this risk analysis based on the new process of risk assessment. We created the inventory of risk, so they have the proof for the auditor in future that we are doing those risk assessments. Also, we based on this, we created comprehensive documentation for the information security policies, and we did it based on the ISO 27001 requirement. And also, we introduced training for the senior management. I've mentioned that this is also one of the key requirements from the NIS 2 directive. So this is a sample concrete case, because the thing that I described was general, but there are many things and we don't have time. But just a sample thing is that the company didn't have like defined procedure how to assess the criticality of an IT asset. So basically, if you don't know what is important for you and how to assess what is important for you, then you don't know how to properly secure it. And we could see that there were like most of the critical assets were stated, okay, this is asset, it's critical, but there were some really not important one, or maybe important from the IT person perspective, but they didn't support any critical business process. So in fact, if it would be breached, then it didn't have any big impact of the company. So we prepared them really simple like Excel file with the information, okay, how to assess if it's critical asset or if it's not critical asset. Also, this is a good thing to remember where we implement all those procedures, that there are things that you can do with less efforts, and there are things that you can do with big effort. For example, it is good to have your data document classified. So you can show to the auditor, okay, this is my data, this is classified data, and based on that, later I decide the next NIS requirements, what should be encrypted and what should use the secure communication channel. But basically, you can do it in the easy way. So, and this is how we did it for this purpose. Few workshops with the business, and we presented the sample list of document types that similar companies use, and they just approved that, okay, those are the types of document that we really have. Those are the, like, let's say, department responsible for this guy, and that's it. You have this document classified. But if you would like to go to the hard way, you can, implement the data classification system. And for that, from activities that took like 2 weeks of work, calendar, because it was not so extensive, you would have the projects that would require like 4 or 5 months of really hard work. Okay, so the next really important process is the incident handling. And for this case, the company had almost nothing. They, as typical company, they had the service desk people, and every time something happened with the computer, something happened with the with the IT environment, something even like look like a breach, some virus, etc. It was sent to the service desk emails, and that's all. Because of that, company was not able to anyhow to be compliant. The company was not able to respond to any real breach, because when someone send you email, okay, my computer is attacked, then it's usually too late. The case for the incident response and basically is that you need to have the monitoring, and this is something that we did. Firstly, we implemented the incident response framework. It's also, in fact, it sounds very wow, but at the end, it's just the document that describes you roles, responsibilities, and activities, what to do when you find the incident, when you find the breach. Not to have the situation that we have breach and all the people in the company are in the panic mode. I've seen such things. And the real case is that the company, after we implemented the processes, in fact, they are compliant. But the case is that they were not able to be really secure with that because they didn't have proper resources for constant monitoring. So they use like our service as a managed service provider. We provide them with the service of 8/5 monitoring, where we implement proper monitoring tool like CMD, Microsoft Sentinel, created proper procedure, etc. The case of using the team dedicated for the monitoring is that for us, it's really easy to fulfill the requirements of the reporting mechanism. I mean, the NIS directive says that if you discover the serious incident, you have 24 hours to report that. Then you have 72 hours to be able to report about some concrete findings and concrete information about, for example, indicators of compromise. And then you have 1 month for detailed report what happened. Basically, if you will comply with that, even if you have breach, there is a high probability that you had a breach, you reported it properly, you have the proper information there, you won't be audited. Because the company see, okay, they happens to almost all companies, they were able to manage it. But if you won't comply with this requirement, then you will have for sure the audit. The next one is the business continuity. So basically, the company, this current company, in fact, they have the business continuity plan, they perform the business impact analysis, so they had the proper procedures. They even had the backups for the critical system. Basically, they had 2 problems that we implemented. Fact that they were not able to state which process is really critical for them is that they didn't have the BCP plan for the really critical process. They have for some process they thought they are critical, and basically it was the IT person that decided, okay, so this process is critical. So we provided with the policy and procedure how to assess which process is critical, and then to focus the BCP on the critical ones. And it's really important because the business continuity is really expensive for the companies. It is really expensive, so it's better to focus on the most important processes, business processes of your organization. The next thing was pretty technical one, that they didn't have like proper process, and they didn't do testing of the backups and actually process proper backup policy. And I saw a company that was very similar, and I saw that it's very dangerous because this was the company that 2 years ago they called us to support because they were ransomware, and half of the company have all of the servers and endpoint machines encrypted. So no business with can be done, and basically they had the backups, but they didn't test the backups, and some of the backups didn't run when they needed, and some of the backups were stored on the same machines from where they were, preparing the backups. So when the server was encrypted, also the backup was encrypted. Okay, so what we did, as I mentioned, we prepared them how they can access, which is critical. We together with them we choose the critical ones, and then we also supported them with the implementation of cloud backups and the policies for the testing of the backups. The next one, the supply chain security, is the requirement that when I saw almost none of the companies are compliant with. I mean, usually the company have somehow the supply chain verification, but in most cases they are connected to like financial stability, etc. It's not connected to anyhow to risk and security risk. And in fact, it is really important, because if you would like to check some, top security breaches on the world, then very big part of them are done by the sub-supplier, and you are using your data by the supplier. And in fact, the implementation of this is really simple for the company. You create a third-party risk management process, which in fact, it's just you need to have the way how to assess that this is my critical and non-critical supplier. So the one that if he's breached, then it will affect me, or I send the critical data to them and I can lose my critical data with them. Based on that, you use more restrictive checks of the critical and just basic for the non-critical. And as a checks, I mean, you can use, depending on the scale, on how many of the suppliers you have, you can buy a tool for that, but you can also use a simple Excel file with list of questions, and based on the answers, you can create like risk profile for the company, maybe some risk mitigation, and you have the third-party risk management process. Also, please remember that for the auditor to say, okay, we have this, it's worth, randomly to double check the company. For example, if they said, okay, we do have such checks in place, then okay, show me. And just, in your documentation from the audit, you say, okay, we checked and it's in place. And for the auditor, it will be enough. And this is the sample how we supported them, because also this company needed support, as when you didn't do the risk assessment of the third parties, then if you introduce the process, you can have a lot of companies that you need to assess. So basically, we just help them and also train their people how they can simply assess the companies and what standard mitigations are for the standard flows that usually companies have. Okay, so next is more technical. Basically, the company needs to have a vulnerability management process, and also if they are using some equipment, some software, the company have to buy and use them, thinking about security. So this company partially have this in place, but not fully. And for example, they have the patching process, so they patched if the new patch for the Windows, etc. happened, they had it, but they didn't have it for the actual vulnerability management process. So we basically introduced the vulnerability assessment and vulnerability management process. Also, it's not very time consuming to implement it. It's not very expensive. If you are not, focused to buy tool that will do it, For example, you can buy a tool, but the good tool, like for example NIS, great tool, but it costs, as I remember, around $5,000 at least per year. But you can also use like periodical scan for the third party. It can be also cheaper. You can use the same people to actually, when there is a vulnerability introduced, you can have a people that will work and patch those vulnerability from inside your IT team. And also, it's worth to implement basic checklist of what should be checked and what the software that we buy or equipment that we buy, what are the requirements against the software. For example, I need that the software encrypt data at rest and in transfer. The software need to have proper access management, etc. Just simple things, and it will be enough. As a case study, also they have a provider that wrote dedicated system for this. This was some software development company. For us, what we did, we used this created list to add it to the agreement with the company that this company must fulfill this requirement. And also, let's say we passed some risk on them, and it was put in the agreement that they need to provide like vulnerability penetration testing reports done by the independent company every year. And now our customer is safe, is compliant, and actually the work is done by this third party. Okay, there is also next important process is that, but it's connected to this risk management. So this initial process, you need to be able to assess if it's effective. And this kind of process is really important for the higher management, because this is the process where higher management proves that, okay, we are driving the security, we are aware of the security, we as a people are compliant. It's important for them because NIS 2, has this fine directly. This fine can be put directly on the concrete person, on this person, the board member, for example. So if they are using, like we implemented, if they are on the periodical meetings of reviewing the KPIs in the organization, the security measures, then they can prove that we did what we needed to do. And also, this is also it's not something really difficult. If you are not having the big company, like there is like bank or you have few thousand people, etc., you don't need to buy systems for BCP policies, etc. You just propose some control standard measures, you measure it automatically or even manually, and then have periodical review of that. And if something is not okay, then you prepare the notes of improvements needed. And it's also, it's easy, simple, cheap, but it's very effective, and it shows you that you are compliant. But most important, it shows you where you should work more on your security. And here you have some sample metrics. So there are simple, like critical incident mean time to detect. So also mean time between critical incidents, or you can decide that we have like 90% of our environment patched, or we have people security aware trained. Speaking about the training, this is also something that is needed, and it's something that is easy to implement. This company has partially this process. They had like, let's say, security requirements and they had it in their work requirements. How can you can use the company equipment? How can you use the security company equipment? But they didn't have any process of training for the security awareness training. So we introduced the process of mandatory security awareness training program for newcomers, some periodical. Also, we created the process of providing reports for the people. Important thing, the people that use the security awareness training, they have somehow be tested. So we implemented tests after each training, and also we introduced the phishing campaigns to check if it's efficient. Basically, it doesn't need to be that you are, have very extensive security awareness. We just provide, and it's enough, like 1 hour annual security awareness training for the company members. They can, it can be recorded. They can watch it every year, and then they have this test, and you are compliant with the regulatory requirements. Okay, so that was all. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you have like any questions, I will try to answer now, but we don't have much time. So also, if you have any like more questions, something that I won't be able to answer today, then please feel free to contact me or contact me Google, send us emails. I will try to answer all your questions.
So, David, just one question. I know you cannot see me, but Andreas is asking what happens if a company does not manage to be compliant on time?
So it's, as I mentioned, it depends what type of the company is this. If it's essential or important. Important, most probably nothing. I mean, you are taking the risk that because you will need to say that to the respective authority, okay, I'm under the regulation, I'm this type of entity, and I am or I should be compliant. If you don't do it, probably someone will check sooner or later. But if you are not breached, then probably nothing will happen. But this is the risk. But if you are like essential entity, then you will need to provide the assessment. So you will be checked.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting. Then, are you able to take that risk? Is the question. It could be a very painful exercise not to be compliant, but
it is, and that's why in the regulatory fines there are personal fines for the board, for the concrete for those people not to take those risks.
Exactly. And the question for me: do everybody need to have a SOC team?
I mean, to be compliant, in theory, no. Because if you have procedure, you can prove that you are reviewing the incidents, then you are compliant. But in practice, it's hard to have. I mean, the incident monitoring and response is the most critical, like technical process from the organizational perspective. And it's because, like, very quickly, attacks, usually the cyber attack and breach doesn't look like it's one time and I'm breached. Usually it's the steps of small activities. And almost every time when we see and when we cooperate with the company that was breached, they had in their systems, in their logs, evidence of this small activities happened. Sometimes it's like few months someone is there before doing the harm. If you have a SOC team, you are able to, just physically read those logs and see, okay, something happened, I will cut the attack and I'm okay. Also, in fact, without the SOC team, it's really very difficult to answer to this reporting regulation.
Okay. There's a couple of more questions. Maybe we have time to go through them. So how long does it take to implement NIS 2 requirements? Just an idea of a time.
It's like best questions and best answer. Answer is it depends. Yeah, it basically depends on the scale of the organization and also what is the as is state. For this company, I mentioned, it was like around 4 or 5 months, but it's calendar month. It's not so big deal in terms of man days needed. It just takes time to implement all of these requirements.
Okay, thank you very much. And the last question, does NIS require phishing simulations?
In fact, no. The NIS requires that you have the awareness trainings, and you need to prove that even not the trainings, it's required that your people are trained and aware. And for that, you do the awareness training, and you need to prove that they are aware. So you can have only the tests. Case is that the phishing campaigns are really simple to do, especially if you have proper tools. They are really cheap to perform, and they are very good to know how is your security, especially that 80%, over 80% of all attacks on the companies are caused by the human behavior, and most of them start with the malicious or phishing emails. And this company, when we performed this first phishing campaigns, actually it was around the before the holiday season this year. And when we the case that we sent it to around 50 people, and it was about, okay, you can have additional money from the company to spend on your holidays. Please choose your voucher. Basically, the case we sent it for the 50 people, around 70 fell for it. So more than we sent, people just sent to each other. So this was the first campaign. So we had like great success, or as I can say, that great failure from the company perspective. But the next one was far better. So we have like 20% of people fell for the attack.
Sounds like you need to be creative to do a good test to find out.
Yes.
So thank you so much, David, for presenting the NIS 2 and taking time. And thank you to all of you who joined today for taking time off your schedule to listen to us. Please communicate to us if you have any more questions that you want to follow up, or have any discussion around the NIS 2 or any cybersecurity topic. We're here for you. So have a good afternoon or evening, and talk to you next time. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye.